This is the GoPro Hero 9, and these are ND filters from Freewell, and this is a mysterious hole that's been on the last 20 years of satellite imagery 5 miles back and 3,000 feet up on a glacier. What do these three things have in common? We're gonna go find out what that hole is, and we're gonna test this camera and these ND filters while we're at it. I kayaked across that. It's like a 15-mile-an-hour wind, which is gonna be fun to go back across. And now we're trying to hike up there, basically through the worst part. There's the glacier right back there. I have a feeling it's going to be extremely windy up there. We're going to go right up there, get on the ice with my cleats and run up around the corner. On Google Maps and Apple Maps and on other maps, there's been a large round hole at the very back of this glacier. And I've always wanted to find out why there's a round hole in the very back, up the highest part, and see if I can see what's inside. Because of course, you know, it might be aliens. After the year we've had, it wouldn't surprise me in the least. Been quite a journey, but we're getting close. See, that's the back side of this glacier. If you don't know why you want ND filters for your GoPro or your action camera by now, I've got lots of other videos about ND filters, but the Freewell ND filters are really well built, really well machined, they're really solid, and they hold up to a ton of abuse. I've had a couple of my Freewell filters for 3 years now. I'm not terribly easy on my stuff, and they're still going strong. Freewell also says that their filters are scratch proof. I'm inclined to believe it. I've had other filters by other brands that are also expensive, more expensive, sometimes more than double what Freewell filters are. And my Freewell filters still have not been scratched, or at least not scratched to where I could notice it, whereas the other filters have been. This is the end of the glacier. Cool. We made it, but it's super windy. So we're gonna go back to the studio, finish the rest there. Now before we jump in and I show you some samples of how ND filters can improve your footage, I need to say this. Don't go out and do some of the things that you see me doing on my channel unless you have extensive mountaineering and specifically extensive experience working on and around glaciers. I've been mountaineering and I've been doing things like this for about 22 to 23 years. And so I have a lot of experience doing these things. And I understand the risks, I understand the safety aspect and everything I need to do to be safe in these locations that I go to. Please don't watch these videos and think that you can just run out and run on top of a glacier without taking safety precautions and without some sort of training, or at least going with people who know what they're doing, because they are incredibly beautiful, but also incredibly dangerous places to go. Now, while Freewell sent these to me free of charge, they're not paying for this video and they didn't ask me to say anything. This is my free, unbiased opinion. They just sent them and said, try them out and tell you what I think. So that's what I'm doing. That being said, I have purchased a lot of Freewell filters on my own. I've purchased a lot of other brands of filters as well, and Freewell are some of the best that I've used. They're well made, they withstand a lot of abuse, and they do a great job of cutting down the amount of light that's going into your camera without changing or tinting the footage a lot. This is the all-day pack from Freewell, and they also sent me the ND1000, which is pretty cool if you want to do some motion blur photography, which is great for when you're taking pictures of waterfalls like this one. You get that nice motion blur in the water, it gives you a real sense of motion. Now, most action cameras create great footage straight out of the camera. They're built to work well in bright light and stuff like that. But if you want to get the best looking footage, especially when you're doing high action, high motion, high speed type things, then you're going to want to be able to control your shutter speed. we are used to seeing a certain amount of motion blur in our videos and in our movies that we watch, and our eyes and the way we process images. There is a certain amount of motion blur that we process as what we would think of as natural looking. And the only way to do that on an action camera is to be able to control the shutter speed. And the only way to control the shutter speed on an action camera in bright lighting situations is using an ND filter. So if you look at this shot here, this is shot just straight out of camera with the GoPro Hero 9 on my FPV drone, flying as fast as I could, and specifically look at the gravel going by. It's very jittery, it's very stuttery looking, because the shutter speed on the GoPro is so high to compensate for the amount of light that's in that area. Now, if you look at this clip here, with the proper amount of motion blur, it makes the footage feel more smooth and more fluid, and that's what we want. That's more cinematic, if you will. So the only way to do that is to use ND filters. Now, the nice thing about the GoPro Hero 9 is they made the lens user replaceable. Thankfully, after they heard all of us scream on the Hero 8, you don't have to send the whole GoPro in, and Freewell just snaps on, clicks in, just like that, and it's ready to go. And the nice thing is, it doesn't lose the waterproofness of the GoPro, so you can still use this just like you would with the GoPro lens that it comes with. It's waterproof and dustproof. The nice thing about this set from Freewell is you get an ND8, an ND16, an ND32, and a polarizer. The polarizer can be useful in certain situations, mostly when you're around water and you want to cut down the amount of light reflecting off of water. I find that polarizers are most useful in photos. I don't use them in video very often, but you can. The ND8, ND16, and ND32 are incredibly useful in really bright light. The ND8 is kind of that middle of the ground, sort of normal everything. The ND16 and the ND32 are more for like your bright noonday sun where there's no clouds or there's just tons of light coming in. The ND32 is really useful if you're shooting on snow, or in my case on glacier ice where there's a ton of light coming into the camera. And now I have a question for you. Would you like to see me do a deep dive review on the GoPro Hero 9, or do you feel like it's kind of been done already? I'll put together a small playlist right here if you want to see other accessories, tips, tricks, settings for getting the most out of your GoPro. Here, tap there. I'll see you in one of those videos. As always, ask questions in the comments below or join my live stream Wednesday nights. Now, I just have to hike 2 more miles, kayak 3 miles to get to my car and go home. See you soon in the next video. Cheers.